everyone, welcome back to Fighting Spirit Film Festival. I have a very special guest with me today. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jadey Duffield. I'm a director and writer.
Describe yourself in three fictional characters. I know I asked you this years ago, but I don't remember the answers, I'm afraid.
God, and it's probably changed since then as well. So, um, I would say Lucy Ricardo. I don't know if you know who that is, with a splash of Mr. Bean and a touch of Furiosa.
So, like physical comedy and also badass.
Yeah, there we go.
Can you tell us about your martial arts background? When did you begin and how did it make you feel?
I feel like my martial arts kind of started later in life, because I trained as a dancer first, and then I guess that helped with movement and transitioning into like martial arts and stunts was a lot easier. Uh, I would say that the kind of I explored like when I went out to Thailand, I explored a lot of kind of Muay Thai, Taekwondo, and boxing. And I'd say boxing probably had the biggest impact more on like mental health and like just being a female that needs to get out some rage now and then. But also like in terms of like self-defense and things like that. I guess that probably had the biggest effect more on my life, like the boxing, definitely.
When did you know that you wanted to make a career out of martial arts?
I guess I didn't. I I I mean I grew up loving action films and like a super adrenaline junkie, hence why I ended up doing stunts. And it's the same as the stunt work. I didn't plan to do that either. So I think it was something that happened organically and something I just embraced. And then once I did it once, I was just like, give me more, shoot me, let me fall down the stairs. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I just got a buzz for it. And then I guess that's where the whole filmmaking process come in as well.
Combining martial arts and directing, how did you find your footing in the film industry?
It feels like a long journey. For me, I guess I've always been in the arts. So even when I was small, I had my ballet shoes in one corner, my football boots and my boxing gloves in the other. So I always had like a weird combination. I was a super tomboy as well. I still am a little bit, that kind of masculine energy. And um, I guess like it was never a straight line in terms of where I wanted to go. I wanted to be in Broadway at the beginning. Like I wanted to be a dancer on Broadway and be in Chicago and do all those things. And I did have a dance career, but the martial arts and the acting, the writing, and eventually the directing, I guess, um, just ended up happening. That the stunt thing is definitely something that came on board when I was doing more like acting in action films and then doing my own stunts and then training for the stunt register. But as I've said before, like 7, 8 years ago, there wasn't many women doing it. So I ended up kind of training with the right groups and just it was kind of like that thing of, you know, right place, right time, where you get in with the right crowd and then they kind of take you under your wing and it's a really lovely community to be a part of. And then yeah, and then just started getting like stunt work jobs off the back of that. Like I was obviously training a lot as well, doing wire work and weapons and you know just consistently keeping fit for those jobs as they were coming in. And then I realized there were a lack of women in that area as well, so it became a little bit more easier for me to dip in and out jobs. And then I guess at the same time I was always writing because that was definitely like the boxing. It was an outlet to be creative and tell stories and create strong female characters that weren't necessarily being presented to me either as an actor then. And all of that kind of combined, I ended up thinking, well, I'd love, I have this vision, I have this idea, I have this story, and I'm a storyteller. Um, it's probably got to be me that's got to direct it. And I guess having all of the knowledge of being in front of camera, behind camera, stunts, focus pulling, being an extra, being a writer, being a producer, all of those things combined is kind of where I've ended up now in the industry and networking a lot. I'm meeting people like Sue as
Yeah.
well, running the Fighting Spirit Film Festival and just creating communities and networks. And I guess it's a very long answer to your question, but there's no easy way and there's no one way to go into the film industry. So everyone's journey is different.
What do you see as the future of martial arts slash action cinema?
We need more.
Mm.
That I would say. I feel like I was having this conversation with a friend the other day. Like we have small pockets of action films that get made. It goes through like a wave, and then it just kind of dies. And I think in the US they seem to be making turning over more action films than we do in the UK. I certainly think, and I hope that because action is universal, it sells and it's entertaining and people want to go to the cinema and watch something like big action stuff. I just hope that the future they take more risks on maybe indie filmmakers with ideas with action being at the center of it, more female directors, writers edging that as well. And there are, some stunt people that are moving into directing their own films as well, mainly in the US, but for the UK, hopefully, fingers crossed, like this year, it might pick up and production companies might, put more action on their slate because horror is doing okay. It could always be better, but I think there can always be more action.
Can you tell us when you founded your production company?
Oh my God. I started DreamMore Films, I guess, is it 6 years ago? Yeah, 6 or 7. Time is going really fast. Like we're in February already. It could be 7, but I'm gonna say 6, I think. I started that to get a little bit more control over what I was doing in the industry. And I noticed a lot of these like applications in order to get scripts and TV pilots and films into the right hands, you needed to submit through a production company. A lot of these companies like no unsolicited material, it has to come from a production company. So I was like, well, I'm gonna start my own production company, kind of make it my little creative hub, and then yeah, go from there and see what I can leverage off the back of that. And again, creating like teams and a nice slate of scripts and stuff like that. And
I never knew that it had to be through a production company. Like, I didn't know there were more
yeah,
logistics behind everything. Are there any, this is, I guess, just for me,
yes.
more logistics to setting up your own production company, like certain procedures that you have to go through?
Um, I mean, it's pretty simple. Anyone can set up a company online. I think there's like a small fee that you can set up a limited company. And I guess the thing that you always have to remember is like once you start trading as a company. So I started trading as soon as I had BFI funding for shorts, because that's like I guess government money. That puts your company into a trade-in situation, which means you need to file taxes and all of that stuff. And like so there's a bit more to it. And obviously, if your company's making a huge turnover, then yeah, like there's a lot to it then. But I guess the ground, like anyone could go and start a company essentially, a limited company. As long as you've got like you're registered in the UK and you're the director of the company, those things, you can do it. So, but I always say, because some friends asked me recently, I might just start a company. It's like, yeah, but just have a think about it because there's still like work and paperwork and stuff that you have to do as well. So it's fun until it's not fun.
Your last film that you submitted to the film festival, The Last Dumpling, how did the idea come about?
I said this recently on a panel, another festival. Basically, um, the idea I had been sitting there for ages, and I always say it's come from a very British culture where if you go to a tapas restaurant and you order loads of dishes, everyone's so polite to eat the last olive or the last dumpling or the last whatever that's left in the bowl. Like, and there's just one of everything left on the table. And I always found that really funny that no one would eat it and and very British. And I just thought that's a funny idea because a lot of starters in restaurants come in threes. So it makes it awkward. And then I guess the idea kind of grew from there about, how would if a couple were on a date. Originally I was going to be in it, like I was going to be in the short and direct it as well, but it was just too much. And then Sam and Shinji obviously are fantastic in it. And I just thought the stakes are higher if it's two men rather than a man and woman. And it makes it more interesting because neither of them will offer it up to the other. Where if it was man and woman, the guy would go, okay, I'll let you have the last one. So yeah, I guess that's where it all stemmed from, that idea for sure.
How did you know you wanted to cast Shinji and Sam?
I was like, okay, I know a lot of stunt people, but stunt actors I knew could pull off like the acting side because a lot of it's story driven as much as there's like action in it. And Sam and Shinji have such amazing, they're both very handsome guys. They have a very good look on screen and they're very chiseled and they're like a similar height. And I was just like, I really would love these two guys to do it because I'm not sure if they'd worked together before on something. I know they've done a lot of separate projects that have been kind of in the same festival runs and stuff, but and they just look great. They're so photogenic and expressional, and I knew that their acting capability was on point, so they came to mind straight away. I'm glad they said yes too. So
Can you talk us through the choreography for The Last Dumpling? What inspired the choreography and how did you prepare Sam and Shinji for the choreography?
on the lead up to shooting, this was over quite a few months. Obviously, we couldn't all get together every day, but at least a couple of days a week, we got together in the location, and the location were fantastic. They were fine. They were like, yeah, you know, don't cause a big scene because it was a working restaurant and bar. But they were like, yeah, you're more than welcome to come in the afternoons when it's quiet and rehearse, which was fantastic. And um, I guess we just started with chopsticks and a bit of screwed up tissue at the time, which we were using as a dumpling because I hadn't figured out how to do dumplings and how to put them on wires yet. And yeah, we basically, I had a rough idea of how I wanted it to look. And I guess essentially I didn't want it to go too aggressive and too big. I wanted it to be actually, it was more of a challenge to keep it at the table. And obviously there are moments where we come away from the table, but at the beginning it was like really big, really aggressive. And it was like, I guess the challenges were toning it down and bringing the comedy element in and that Jackie Chan vibe and that playful Kung Fu Panda vibes, um, and kind of that was the challenge. And it's so intricate that I'm glad I didn't do it now because I can hold a chopstick, but I'd get cramp.
Mhm.
And I guess Sam and Shinji are so used to using chopsticks. They just did amazing. And we just built story and I kind of workshopped them with their acting. And I guess the hardest thing for them was there was no dialogue
Mhm.
and they felt the need to talk or say something in awkward moments. But rehearsing those awkward moments where they're just like staring at each other or at the dumpling and using their eyes and being expressive, like expression um was was the fun part. I also had another guy called Hatan Patel, who's an amazing artist, and he was kind of like my second eyes, really, just helping with shaping and the fluidity. And he's an amazing movement guy himself. And yeah, he would pop in and out of the rehearsals as well.
You put the dumplings on the wires. Were they like prop dumplings
Yes.
or actual food dumplings?
Well, this is the thing. So I looked at prop dumplings and they looked terrible and plasticky. And I was like, this is not going to work. And they were quite shiny. So the dumplings or the gyozas that we had at the restaurant were fried anyway. So I was like, okay, so they've got kind of a shine to them. I wonder if I order a load and then basically I did like surgery on them. I cut them underneath, gutted the vegetables out, stuffed them, glued them back together. So essentially the shell is real food. And then I had to get fishing wire and put the fishing wire through the dumplings. So I was up literally 24 hours before filming, making all of these dumplings and stuff. And they started to smell because they were obviously like real food. So I used resin to keep it all together. And obviously they ate the real ones as well. So we had a combination of the real dumplings that were fresh and edible, and the ones that were on the wires as well. So yeah, it was always meant to look ridiculous. Like it's obviously you don't get natural movement when the dumpling flies in the air. It kind of like hovers because it's on a wire rather than does this. But again, that was just kind of a style option of kind of leaning into that, you know, the homage to that Hong Kong kind of cinema, you know, the early Jackie Chan kind of stuff, which was funny. And I think it adds more humor to it as well.
Who was in charge of basically doing the dumpling choreography?
So basically, Hatan, who I said was like my second eyes, I ended up kind of making him the dumpling wrangler. Um, so he played around with. So I put once I had the fishing wire on, I then put it onto like a bamboo stick. So we played around with the weight of that, and then he ended up kind of volunteering doing the doing that part basically, and um then and Sashi Kasoon, who was the DOP, would come in and out of rehearsals. I would like pre-visit on my phone as well to show everyone because I didn't have a script. So it was purely like an action piece that I had to go, right, this is what it looks like, and this is how we're gonna have to break it down and shoot it. And we shot it in like 5 hours. So we only had a small amount of time to do everything and get the dog in at the end as well. Hunter.
What was the best part of filming The Last Dumpling?
I just think seeing everyone's faces during filming because it was such a random thing to film. And also because we were in a working restaurant and passerbyers would like walk past outside and see like the dumplings on the wires. And obviously there's a section, what I called our matrix section, where they lean across the table in slow-mo, but they're actually acting slow-mo and the rest of the world is normal. So when people were walking past and seeing what we were doing, it was just seeing everyone smiling and enjoying it. I had to come to set just to visit for the day because he'd never been on a set before, and I said, yes, of course you can come along. And he had no clue. He walked in and he was like, what, this is crazy. What is this? It's really fun. And for me, it's always about creating a really fun environment that people want to come back to and come and do another job. And it takes a while to find those people, but when you do and they really enjoy it, it's, you know, you're doing your job basically. And I think that's the fun part, and obviously seeing the end result.
What was the hardest part of filming The Last Dumpling?
Um, Probably time restrictions and uh, losing light, all of those logistics, and actually at the beginning I lost an hour because one of our lights broke
Oh,
that we had set up, and so we had to figure that out. we got there in the end, but it I lost another hour, and it's always I never cut anything from what I had. And I guess the AD was like, you need to lose something because you're not going to get it done. And I was like, no, we'll get it done for sure. And it's just standing by because it's so short anyway that if I lost a section, it wouldn't feel right. And I guess that was probably the hardest challenge. And we had some money, but it was very, very, very little. So it's always more time, more money.
How's the editing process like to make sure the continuity was perfect for the short film?
Well, I think that is a skill in itself. So Craig Harbour, who I've worked with before, he actually edited a comedy of mine called Sticky Fingers with Amit Shah and Jack Bradley, and he predominantly edits a lot of comedy television, and so he made my job quite easy because he knew where those comedy beats were without me having to stress to him where they were. And I think that's the difference with someone who edits comedy rather than just being an editor. I think you've got to have an eye for it, definitely, because otherwise it makes kind of my job as the director, it makes it more difficult and it just takes more time. So we've got quite a good working relationship. We've both got a very dry sense of humor in terms of, where things hit and where it doesn't hit. And I guess again with music as well, like the music and sound design is always a big part of what I do because something that's not scripted or has no dialogue, it needs outrageous music and sound design. But then you could, if you turned it off, if you turned the sound off, you could still watch that film. Like that takes you back to like the Buster Keaton times and stuff like that, and Harold Lloyd. Like it would still play out as a visual, and that's the best way to tell if it works, I think.
What was the best feedback you received for The Last Dumpling?
There was a few. There was someone who said that it reminded them of like the early days of Jackie Chan, which I was like, thank you. And Sammo Hung style and the very kind of do you know the Wheels on Mills kind of the film, and just like Hong Kong legends and stuff like that, and all of that stuff was kind of like what inspired me anyway. I think I had someone say it reminded them also of the Daniels that did everything everywhere all at once kind of style. So um yeah, that was really fun. Like it's always fun to hear people bring up those references that inspired you anyway to do it. So that's probably the my favorite comment so far.
And lastly, do you have any upcoming projects that you can tell us about?
Yes, I do actually. So I am in the process of, or just about to, I guess, go out an exciting stage of my comedy debut feature comedy action called Bingo Bastards. And it's a comedy action set in the 80s in a bingo hall. It's a heist on a bingo hall. I won't give too much away. And I guess I created this film. It was very challenging to write something in one location. And I've been working on this for quite some time now. And the script is pretty much where I'd like it to be. And the pitch deck and everything is coming together. So I'm at that exciting time now where we're about to go out and talk to casting directors and finance and pre-sales and see, you know, if I can get it made. But I need to get it made.
Mhm.
I have no options. That's the goal this year, is to get the feature made.
And you will.
Thank you. I hope so. In the meantime, like I will still be hustling and doing whatever I can. But yeah, um, I think you got to set yourself a goal with these things because I can't be one of those people that it takes 5 years to make a film. I'm like, no. If I can do it as fast as I do my shorts, then I'll be happy about that. It will take a bit longer to edit, of course. So
Now, time for speed round. You have 10 seconds to pick a film for each question.
Oh, okay.
If someone wanted to get to know you, which film would you choose?
Oh my God. Um, what film would I choose? Maybe Singing in the Rain.
Your favorite person, what is their favorite film?
Oh, my favorite person's favorite film, Point Break, I would say.
What is your favorite movie from your favorite director?
A hard one. Um, I would say probably Catherine Bigelow. Well, I would say yeah, either Point Break or s- I mean her first film I think was Near Dark. So it's just something that's very crazy, something like that.
What is the best film released last year?
Oh. I quite. What was the film that Dev Patel was in? Was it Monkey Man or
Yeah, I
something?
think so.
That was quite good. Um, I quite enjoyed that. I'll say that.
Which cinematic universe would you like to live in?
Uh, I'd like to go hang out with Deadpool.
Mm.
Deadpool and Wolverine, probably.
Well, that's the end of speed round. Thank you so much for joining us today. You're going to get your film made,
Thank you.
definitely. I'm
Thank you
trying
for
to,
your.
yeah, I'm trying to live with the everything has to work out mantra now.
I think it's the only way for 2025 is for us all to think that way, I reckon.